right, so welcome everybody. In the meantime, maybe we can just do a quick round of quick introductions so that we just have an idea of who's on the meeting. So, Asisifo, can you just give us your name and which organization you're hailing from?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Asisiko Fihlani. I work from the Eastern Cape Development Corporation under the Trade Promotion Unit of the ECDC. Thank you.
Thank you. Benazi Silva. Okay, Christopher Muller, can you quickly introduce yourself?
Hi, Florence. Sorry, I missed you. I'm not sure if you said I should introduce myself, but that's me.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes,
Good
can you just quickly introduce yourself?
Certainly. Good afternoon, everyone. Very lovely to be here. Good morning to those in the US. My name is Christopher Muller. I am the program advisor at the USA Trade Hub, and looking forward to speaking with all of you. Back to you, Florence.
Thanks, Christopher. Pass, Mamhuze.
You got it correct, Florence. So good morning, Maddi, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cosmos Mamunze. I'm a portfolio manager at USA Trade Hub, looking after South Africa, based in Pretoria. Thank you.
Thanks, Cos. Pego, Julius Shuko.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, my name is Julius Tego from Botswana Investment and Trade Center within the Export Development and Promotion Department. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Edumisa. Okay, Elvia. Please go ahead, Edumisa.
Hi, Florence. I actually wasn't sure if you said my name.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to those in the US. My name is Edumisa Makongo. I'll work with the South African cluster at the USA Trade Hub. Thank you.
Thank you, Elvia. Okay, Fidelio. Thanks, Fidelio. I didn't really get you, but thanks for your introduction. Francis?
Hi everyone, Francis Fraser. I'm the portfolio manager for Botswana, Namibia and Malawi at the USA Trade Hub. Looking forward to the session. Thanks.
Thanks, nice, Francis. Gregory Chansa?
Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to colleagues in the US. My name is Gregory Chansa, and I'm an agribusiness specialist at the USA Trade Hub. Thank you.
Thank you, Ishmael Kandu.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to colleagues in the US. My name is Ishmael Kandu. I work with Oxfam Southern Africa here in Zambia. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette Nyangwe.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm Jeanette Nanyangwe, Country Program Assistant working for USAID Trade Hub in Zambia. Thank you.
Thank you, Katia Pinto.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Katia. I'm the program assistant for the cluster Mozambique, Eswatini, Lesotho, and Angola. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally Dufour.
Hi, Florence, are you calling me?
Hi.
Hi, my
Yes,
name is
please, you can go
Linda.
ahead.
Okay, my name is Linda Lubengu, from the Trade Promotion Unit at the Eastern Cape Development Corporation. The ECDC is the Trade and Investment Promotion Agency for the Eastern Cape Government, South Africa. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Linnea.
Hi, Linnea Caldera here, Country Program Assistant for Mozambique.
Lizelle.
Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Lizelle Maurice. I'm the Executive Director for the Boracay Chamber of Business based in East London, Eastern Cape Province of South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Lumbeto Shaw.
Hi all, my name is Lumbeta Shaw, representing Mupapa Woods. I'm in charge of marketing.
Thank you. Lina Mukorova.
My name is Lina Mukoroverwa. I'm a male specialist for the USA Trade Hub. I'm based in Pretoria, South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. Maddie, it's your turn now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Maddie Siegel from the Plant-Based Foods Association. Apologies for my raspy voice. I'm getting a cold. Nice to see you all. I'm glad to be here with you.
Thank you, Mamosa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mama Samakaya. I'm the Regional Communications Manager at the USAID Trade Hub in Pretoria.
Thank you, Martin Masilela.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Martin Masilela. I'm the country representative for Eswatini under the USAID Trade Hub. Thank you.
You, Mildred. Okay. Mayombuya.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Moyombuya Ngubula, but you can just all call me Moyo. I am an international trade law and commercial law practitioner, currently heading the legal department at Botswana Tourism Organization here in Botswana. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, Florence.
Can start.
Florence, hello?
Florence?
Okay, Linda, I think you can go ahead. Maybe we can start with the program.
Can we perhaps project the program for everyone's benefit? Good afternoon, everyone. I think we've lost our program director for a bit there. She may come in again. I've introduced myself before. My name is Linda Lubengu from the Trade and Investment Agency of the Eastern Cape Government, South Africa, which is the Eastern Cape Development Corporation. I am responsible for trade promotion. Today we are hosting this session. It is basically a platform that we have been working on since 2021. And the aim for creating this platform was for the trade investment promotion service providers to have a platform where they could meet, network, share experiences, perhaps form new collaborations, find new links, and interact and to enhance the trade and investment programs. So the members agreed that the participating members should take the responsibility of hosting an event every quarter. So we have been deliberating for the past 6 months, and hence we are here today. So the Zambia Association of Manufacturers, which is led by Florence, who has just who is our host today, also the program director. They have volunteered to host today's session, supported by the ECDC as a secretariat, as well as by USA Trade Hub as our partner. I'm just going to introduce them, Association of Manufacturers, briefly. They are a private sector-led membership-driven organization established in 1985 and registered under CAP 111 of the Societies Act of Zambia. The association represents the interest of the manufacturers in Zambia, with a membership of about 350 firms involved in 20 sub-manufacturing categories. Their mandate is to effectively represent the manufacturer sector and lobby for measures that are supportive towards the growth of manufacturing sector in Zambia. Their goal is to enhance the manufacturing sector, contributing 20% of the GDP by 2030. So we have Florence on the line, who is our host, as well as our program director for the day. I'm not sure if she has come back again to continue with her role of to drive the program for us.
Hi, Linda, thank you very much. So I'd like to welcome everybody once again. My name is Florence Mulea. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at the Zambia Association of Manufacturers. I've worked in research and policy analysis for the past 10 years, and currently I'm the CEO at ZAM. So at ZAM, we work mainly towards adding value to our members, but also adding value to the economy. So my role here is mainly to provide overall oversight to a portfolio of over 350 members. And before I came here, I was working as a research fellow at the Zambia Institute for Policy Analysis and Research. I also worked with the Zambia Revenue Authority, both in customs and domestic taxes. And I do have a Master's of Science in Trade Policy and Trade Law from Lund University in Sweden. And my Bachelor of Arts is in Economics with Public Administration from the University of Zambia. So as has been said, I'd like to welcome you all once again to the first ever Trade and Investment Service Providers Forum that is being hosted by us at ZAM. It's a pleasure to host all of you in anticipation that we will create those networks that will allow us to strengthen our relationships, both for our members and for ourselves, and also to see ourselves move forward to ensure that even as the world is coming out of COVID-19, as our borders are being open, that trade and investments amongst ourselves will lead to greater exports between and among our countries. And so at this juncture, I have the pleasure of introducing to you Maddie Siegel, who is coming from the Plant-Based Food Association in the US. She's the Senior Manager of Member Relations for the association and is responsible for expanding the association's membership base, maximizing the reach of the association, and strategizing new ways to engage the broader plant-based community. And so she's basically here to give us some of these strategies that they use to increase their membership base. And before working at the PBFA, she spent 5 years in grassroots advocacy work through the Humane League. She earned her bachelor's degree in art and design from North Carolina State University and is a passionate advocate for sustainable living and plant-based eating. So at this juncture, Maddie, sorry, it's over to you.
Thank you, Florence. I'm happy to be here with you all today. As was mentioned, I'm the Senior Manager of Member Relations for the Plant-Based Foods Association. And if we could please move to the next slide. We are or PBFA, or the Plant-Based Foods Association, is a member-based trade association that formed in 2016 to establish a collective voice for the U.S. plant-based foods industry. So we represent over 300 of the world's leading plant-based companies, and our board is comprised of the leaders from these established plant-based brands, as you see on the right here. Next slide. Our mission is to champion, strengthen, and elevate our members in the plant-based foods industry. Next slide, please. So to set the stage for our conversation, I just like to always show some of our most recent data reports. As I'm sure many of you are aware, the plant-based foods industry is growing rapidly in the US and globally, which is why we're speaking today. In the US, plant-based food sales grew 46% in the past 4 years, which is 9 times faster than total food sales, making it now a $7 billion industry. So this is not only accelerated growth, it's sustainable growth. So we're recognizing that that's based on shifting consumer attitudes, and those motivations are have only been heightened by COVID-19. So many people are shifting over to this way of eating for health, sustainability, and animal welfare. Next slide, please. So I also wanted to show this chart to demonstrate that plant-based foods growth is substantially outpacing both total food sales and animal-based counterparts. So it's something that if you are conducting trade, you'd want to be aware of, because the US market is typically a good predictor for what's going to happen in the rest of the world. And as we are trading back and forth, we would love to support you or your member companies in the effort to get into the plant-based food space in the US. So I'm going to dive into a little bit about our work. If you'll go to the next slide, please. PBFA represents our members and serves as the voice of the industry through our policy and marketplace engagement. So we provide opportunities for our members to grow their businesses, meet their goals, and then of course strengthen the broader industry. In the policy realm specifically, we support our members by defending their right to use clear and descriptive labeling terms, like for example, meat, milk, and eggs on their packaging. And then we also do proactive policy work. We lobby to promote plant-based foods. We meet with the USDA, FDA, and other US government institutions on behalf of our members. Next slide, please. And that policy work is complemented by our marketplace work. In retail specifically, these are some of the partnerships that we have. So in essence, our goal with our consumer access work is to create and shape opportunities for our members to expand their plant-based lines amongst these prioritized retailers, distributors, and food service and e-commerce operators based on our members' requests and needs. Next slide, please. And so how do we do that? We conduct research and advise our partners on merchandising strategies and marketing initiatives that will optimize the sales of plant-based foods. And we compile and synthesize and disseminate all that data to kind of paint the landscape for the growth of the industry. You will, if you go to our website, notice that we have recently published our sales reports for last year, 2021, and they were very good, as we predicted, and I'm happy to share those reports in the chat after my presentation so that you can access them. We also facilitate partnership events with retailers and create a gateway for member companies to meet buyers from major US retailers to introduce their foods, even if they're not quite available yet. We can make that introduction happen for many of these retailers. And then we connect members to retailer e-commerce platforms to help shape and then also work to help shape the major retailer e-commerce strategies. Next slide, please. As you can see here, these are some of our food service and distributor partnerships. We recognize that for many companies, getting into food service, the biggest challenge is distribution, and probably something you're hearing from folks with trade as well. Distribution can be a very large challenge. So we have created partnerships with these distributors and help to filter members to those. And we have relationships with colleges and universities, the military, K-12 is our school programs, and then other aligned nonprofits to help promote plant-based foods in all of those institutions as well. Next slide, please. We have 4 membership types. We have a company membership, and that's for food manufacturers in the plant-based space. And then we have ingredient supplier membership with different benefits that would, more appeal to those member types. Investor members are pretty straightforward. That's just investors that are operating in the plant-based atmosphere. And then affiliate memberships, which is pretty broad, but that just includes anyone who works in plant-based foods and wants to be affiliated with us. Next slide, please. I'm happy to, this is on our website, and I would be happy to follow up with any of you about our benefits if you were interested in joining us or partnering with us. But just to highlight a few, we offer more insights and a deeper dive into that retail data that I mentioned for our members. And there's many marketing and PR benefits to.
Okay. Thank you so much for that submission. So just as before, I'm going to share the study of what was given under study because we're just starting and
the host kindly mute our colleague. Thank you. Please continue.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I was just highlighting a few of the benefits of working with us. We would love to partner with you all. And if you would, I think, Wendy, could you pull the slides, reshare? I'm not seeing those slides. I can just continue though. In the interest of time, I'll just also mention we've got some really good relationships with US media outlets. So we like to work to amplify the members in that regard as well. And then we host networking events, and we have a presence at most of the major US trade shows. So we will actually be at the Fancy Food Show, which I heard Kaz had mentioned that many of you had planned to be there. We will have a presence there. So we look forward to connecting with you there and meeting you face to face. Thank you. We can go on to the next slide. Lastly, I just wanted to mention we do also have a certification that we offer. If anybody's interested in that, as you are bringing products to the US, this is a good way to really assure the consumer that the product is plant-based and build trust with a trusting relationship with consumers. We partner with NSF International to do that certification, but if anybody's interested, I'm happy to answer questions on that. I believe that is everything. Yeah, my last slide is just a thank you slide, and I'd love to open it up to questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. If there are any questions, please just kindly put up your hand and we will see it and allow you to ask the question. But all right, we do have a hand. Please go ahead and ask your question.
I see.
George Makore.
George.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I'm sorry if you already you did cover that part, but I might have missed it. When you talk about plant-based foods, what sort of range are we talking about? If I'm producing tea, for example, would that be considered to be plant-based food? or there are
Great.
specific products that you look at?
Great question, George. And right now it's a little bit unclear. So we define plant-based foods as foods made without animal ingredients that contain 100% plants. That's very broad, intentionally, because it would encompass something like tea. However, while you would be qualified to join, I wouldn't necessarily recommend joining this association simply because our work is so focused on more of the animal replacements for food ingredients in the U.S. However, some of the, some of the benefits would still benefit you, like, for example, introductions to retailers and the like. So a tea company would be qualified. I just wouldn't necessarily encourage them to join. And the same works for our certification. So it could be certified, but I just don't know if it would necessarily be worth the company's money because consumers already know that that's plant-based. So this really is more suitable for people who are working on some analog to animal products, and that could include cookies or any of those packaged foods that do typically contain animal products. But that's a great question.
Thank you,
How about
Georgia?
Georgia? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I got in just a minute late. I don't know if you mentioned what kind of African companies are you working with now? I would be in ingredients, so just talk a little bit about how ingredients might come in here and who you're working with on the continent. Thanks.
Great question. So as far as I know, we are not really working with any African companies. Most of our membership base is US based because many of the benefits are US focused. But we do have, I know of a few members from China, Japan, Australia, and so we do have some international members. But once again, the benefits are US focused. So if you are trading ingredients in the US, then I do think the membership would benefit you if you're looking to connect with US plant-based companies. That said, we are also, some of our work, we have a sister nonprofit called the Plant-Based Foods Institute, and that work is focused on domestic sourcing of ingredients for the US. So that wouldn't necessarily benefit you, but we do have other marketing benefits for ingredient suppliers. And I'd be happy to speak with you one-on-one at another time.
Okay, so we'll be ending this question and answer session by 3:30. So I'll advise the people who are asking the questions to make them as concise as possible. Georgia, are you able to go next?
I think, was that Georgia that we just heard from?
I just went.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'll take my hand.
Oh, you did? Okay. Christopher, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the presentation, Maddie. I'll ask my second question later. The first one is, you had a slide up on the projections of how plant-based foods are becoming more popular. Does that include, or do the projections include plant-based food imports as well, or is it only for domestic sales in the US? Thanks.
Wonderful question. Yes, so it includes all sales of plant-based foods in the US. So that could include imported foods sold into the US.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question? Okay.
It does. Thank you.
Us, would you like to go next?
Thank you, Chair. Maddie, thanks very much for the presentation. So you highlighted and listed a number of retailers that you are working with. What is your approach to, as you engage the retailers, to ensure that they on board or take on board products from your members?
Yeah, great question. So because we're an association, we can't necessarily give it, we don't act as a broker. So because that would be considered preferential treatment, one-on-one support. So we promote the members in a group. So for example, a retailer like Kroger might ask us we might host something like a Veg Fest, so an event, and bring in all their nutrition representatives, and then we'd bring in every member that wants to be introduced to Kroger. And so the collective group comes to meet with them, and that's how our members get exposure. And then additionally, we work with Kroger on merchandising efforts to help them re-merchandise the products and just better understand the market as a whole. So it's different for every retailer, but the relationships are more event-based, and that's how we kind of facilitate the introductions.
Right. Thank you very much, Maddie. I see that we have exhausted our questions just right on time. So at this juncture, we'll move on to our next presenter. And this is Christopher Muller, who is the program advisor at the USA Trade Hub and supports all program units to successfully implement the USA Trade Hub program in the 9 target countries. He is an international development consultant with more than 12 years experience in higher education, climate smart agriculture, agribusiness and trade, as well as investment sectors. His roles have focused on supporting team members and chief of parties in the implementation of regional programs by providing analytical and strategic support, communications management, as well as liaison between senior management and program staff. Chris has a background in communications, publication design, and copywriting, and is trained in international relations, politics, and social anthropology. Chris, over to you.
Well, thank you very much for that generous introduction. And good afternoon again, everyone. Good morning to our colleagues in the US. I'm just checking with you, Wendy. Can I go ahead and share my slides?
Yes, you can, Chris.
Great, thank you. Everyone, please let me know once you can see my screen.
We can see it. Please just put it in. Yes, please. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you again, everyone, and thank you to the coordinators for inviting me to present on the Digital Impact Study, which is a study that was undertaken by the USAID Southern Africa Trade and Investment Hub between September and October last year. And we try to assess or test 3 assumptions through this study. Because of COVID-19 and the onset of restrictive conditions for movement of goods and movement of people, we try to look at the impact that webinars, business-to-business events, and virtual buyer missions have had on 3 aspects. So firstly, we try to assess if those digital platforms and tools have affected our ability to reach new market actors. Secondly, if it has reduced the project's carbon footprint. And thirdly, if it could serve as a sustainability mechanism of the virtual model after COVID-19. And in studying the impact of these 3 assumptions on the program, we also looked at did any of these 3 assumptions hold for, or do any of the 3 assumptions hold for our exporters, buyers, and TPSPs, so trade promotion service providers. And in so doing, those are the 3 lenses through which we are looking. To conduct the study, we did 2 things. Firstly, we had undertaken desk research to understand the different types of activities that a program like the USA Trade Hub has undertaken before and during the COVID-19 pandemic. And secondly, we conducted interviews with 27 firms, so in-depth interviews with 16 exporters, 3 buyers, and 8 trade promotion service providers that primarily worked with the USA Trade Hub, but that had been working across the Southern Africa region. And so that's the extent or the methodology of the study that we had undertaken. Okay, I'm going to skip this slide because we'll talk about the definitions and usages, and this is quite a busy slide, so we'll go to what's of relevance for the presentation today. When we interviewed the exporters, buyers, and TPSPs, we defined firstly the levels of digitalization, and secondly, the levels of export readiness. particularly in the case of exporters. So the 27 firms we spoke to ranged from being under-digitalized, which is what we call level 1 firms, all the way through to level 3 firms or digitally integrated firms. We didn't speak to digital innovators, which we consider to be tech-savvy businesses that are comfortable operating in the digital space and that add new capabilities, digital capabilities as the opportunities arise. So most of the firms that we spoke to were between these 3 levels, from small or nascent businesses that are just starting out in using digital platforms to businesses that have adopted digital platforms and are becoming more tech savvy. Then in terms of our export readiness, we have 3 categories there. Bushbuck refer to firms that have only national sales experience, so very limited to no export experience. Then we have Impalas that are firms with some export experience, but that still require support to enter the South African market, for example. And then we have the Gazelle level firms, which can be considered the higher of the 3. Those are firms that have export experience to South Africa and in some cases to the US. So just to paint a picture, those are the kind of firms that we had spoken to. Before we get into the interview findings, a little bit of an interactive element. I'd like to ask participants the question on screen, and I'll post a link or I'll pull up the instructions on how to participate shortly. This is the question. In this study, what do you think exporters considered as challenges in trading digitally? And by trading digitally, we mean whether or not they attended virtual events, setting up and participating in virtual buyer missions, business-to-business events, virtual factory or company tours, webinars, or e-commerce. So to participate in this poll, you'll see on my screen right now, there are instructions of how exactly to participate. On your computer or on your phone. Sorry, I think there's somebody unmuted in the background. On your computer or on your phone, please go to menti.com. And when you're asked to put in a code, please use the code that you see on screen. I'll also repost it in the chat function and kindly answer the question. And the only way I'll know that this is working is when the results are actually coming up on screen. Perfect.
Chris, can you please repeat the instructions?
Sure. The participants on your computer, on your browser or in your browser, Google Chrome, whatever you use, please type in menti.com. And when you're asked for a code, please type the code that you see on screen. I've also posted the same code that you can copy and paste into the menti.com page. So the question is, what do you think exporters considered as challenges in trading digitally? We already have 7 responses. Great. I'll give it a few more seconds. I know that that we have quite a few people on the call, so if we can get at least a quarter of the participants voting to get some insight, then that will be great. Okay, a recurrent theme seems to be trust, technology, the human touch, and knowledge. Those 4 seem to stand out more. Right. 24 participants. Great. So I think we've just crossed the quarter mark. Please go ahead and continue to vote. This is, of course, very helpful for us at the USA Trade Hub. And we'll share this with the Trade and Investment Service Provider Forum after the presentation as well. Thank you very much, everyone. So back to the question, what do you think exporters considered as challenges in trading digitally? We had 4 keywords that came up from the votes on the call today: trust, technology, knowledge, and the human touch. From our study, from the Digital Impact Study, what we are seeing is exactly one of the things that participants have voted on today. Exporters agree that networking and relationship building online is challenging. So most of the exporters, buyers, and TPSPs that we interviewed believe that in-person interaction is essential for buyers to experience their products. The element of trust here definitely is affected by the ability to see somebody, meet somebody, have a potential buyer interact with a product of the exporter. Also, having in-person interaction allows exporters to build rapport and credibility with potential business partners. It allows them to assess the seriousness of their potential business partners, which they define as one's credibility. So most of the interviewees mentioned to a great extent that the one thing that was curtailed by the move to digital platforms or to trading digitally was the inability to effectively build good relationships. Secondly, there were 2 buyers that noted that online engagement should not be the first interaction, because building relationships online takes time, and more so than it would to building relationships in person. So all parties agree that virtually relationship building can take significantly more time. A second observation we found, which is related to the issue of technology that most of our participants today voted on, is that buyers and TPSPs consider virtual events to be, in some cases, more efficient. So buyers, for example, have expressed a preference for virtual events, noting that it saves them time, particularly when these events are well planned and if samples are sent ahead of time. Exporters, in turn, agree that targeted business-to-business events are more beneficial. So they found that large trade shows require a greater need for digital literacy, which brings us to the third point. Exporters reported varying levels of digital literacy, and trade promotion service providers in turn felt that exporters have a long way to go before being ready. We mentioned earlier level 1 firms, which are digitally underdeveloped firms. Those firms lack even the equipment to participate fully in online meetings and events. So for some also, connectivity challenges often implies that they need to limit their video usage, which, as we know now, could limit factory tours or virtual company presentations, virtual buyer missions as well. Most exporters express that they have sufficient digital literacy to join the online events and acknowledge that everyone is learning, and that there must be some element of mutual learning. So there must be an element of adaptation. TPSPs and buyers report that many exporters' digital skills are actually insufficient to participate successfully in the online space. A fourth finding is that firms, especially in the Southern Africa region, are being expected to pivot to virtual factory tours. And this is something that even towards the tail end of 2021 was still prevalent. So of course, by then we'd already been to a little bit more than a year and a half into the COVID pandemic and the restrictive conditions. Most exporters and buyers did not mention challenges in conducting factory visits, but for those in the textiles and apparel sector, TPSPs noted that exporters struggled with creating high quality videos, or they had poor connectivity, which would disrupt their live tours. And those, of course, lead to delays in audit for certification. A fifth finding was that exporters note that a key benefit of operating online is having increased access to information. So many firms, even before the pandemic, would not have been able to attend seminars, which of course then turned into webinars during COVID-19. And so having the ability to participate at home saved a lot of money for a lot of these exporting firms. It was also a useful way to inform exporters on what they need before they export. Lastly, on the issue of carbon footprint, for exporters, the consideration of a reduced carbon footprint and the cost saving of online engagement, those are of less of a priority. They consider the value they derive from in-person interaction higher than the consideration of the reduction in their carbon footprint. But some TPSPs and buyers want to limit their travel to reduce their carbon footprint because they acknowledge the amount of waste that is generated at, for example, in-person trade shows. So in summary, for exporters, it's not as important, the reduced carbon footprint, but for TPSPs and buyers, they consider that to be a consideration. Okay, our next sentiment poll, I'm going to skip back to the Menti screen. You don't have to do anything different, no separate instructions, but in your browser again, there will be a question. To what extent do you agree with the three statements on screen? So the three statements are, firstly, buyers, TPSPs, and exporters find trade webinars not useful. Secondly, exporters prefer large events with large number of participants. And thirdly, buyers feel that regional exporters are digitally ready. Okay, so we have the votes coming in. Okay, interestingly, on the second question, exporters preferred larger events with large number of participants. The participants on this call strongly agree with that statement. That's interesting.
Mr. Percy Pulechisokwa, could you kindly please just switch off your video, please?
Okay, we are 20 votes, so 20 participants, 21 who have voted. That's about a quarter of the way. Please feel free to continue doing so. In the meantime, I'm going to go back to the slides. Just to recap, most of the voters feel that buyers, TPSPs, and exporters have found trade webinars to be useful, so they strongly disagree with the statement on screen. Most voters feel that exporters prefer larger events with large number of participants, and most voters lean towards buyers feeling that regional exporters are not digitally ready. So they strongly disagree with that statement. Let's see what the findings from the study show. So firstly, the webinars, particularly those organized by the USA Trade Hub, were seen as one of the program's biggest value adds, though firms would have liked more opportunities for networking. And this could be said of webinars in future, even after COVID-19. Firms find the ability to access information without the need to travel very key, very important. Secondly, different to what our voters in today's call consider, there is consensus that the move from large in-person events to online trade expos has not been successful. So exporters actually had difficulty navigating large events where there are large numbers of people because they felt they required some form of training. to be able to access the very tailored online platforms of these large trade shows. So they are seen as trickier to navigate than smaller business-to-business webinars, where exporters can interact directly with potential business partners. And the third finding was that all interviewees see virtual business-to-business meetings and e-commerce support as very effective and efficient only when they're combined with digital skills related support. So for entities to engage with these different unique platforms, they require some level of training. In this case, the respondents indicated that smaller events allow exporters time to prepare, ensuring they have a professional online presence in place, which buyers and TPSPs report is vital for the exporters' credibility. Buyers confirm that the efficiency of these events is appealing because they can spend a short amount of time viewing concise pitches from exporters without the need to travel. So those are the key findings or lessons learned from online events from our partners. I'm going to skip through sentiment poll 3. We might come back to it at the end of the presentation. But we also asked the exporters, TPSPs, and buyers what they consider to be the future of trade events. And so there are 6 key findings that I'll go through before we get to the analysis. Interviewees agree that while in-person interaction is often superior, digitalization of trade engagement is probably going to continue even after the pandemic recedes. And we base this finding and, not just on the response from the interviewees, but actually that the interviews took place towards the tail end of 2021. When some firms were already traveling to meet buyers and some of the restrictive conditions started opening up. Exporters recognize that they must adapt to the new normal, and according to them, the new normal is a hybrid of in-person and virtual interactions. Surprisingly, the third finding is that only 25% of the exporters interviewed would prefer to go back to in-person interaction as soon as possible. So they've noted the benefit of having virtual engagements for building relationships, but they recognize that building trust takes longer online. A fourth finding is that exporters, most of the exporters believe that online events and meetings can be helpful, but for example, only when you have virtual meetings after you've had an in-person interaction. So to continue the relationship building, you need to at least have had some form of physical interaction. Fifth finding we had was that online engagement is seen as a complement to in-person trade shows, particularly when you have targeted business-to-business meetings. And lastly, all exporters and buyers foresee that they will continue in some or other way investing in resources to attend in-person trade shows, but may use the online meetings to reduce their subsequent travel. Okay, before we get into the analysis, I'm just checking with our MC. Am I still doing all right in terms of time?
Yes, we've got about 8 minutes, so
Great.
Yes.
Okay, well, let me then get to the analysis. What we found was that exporters need support to continue engaging digitally. So there are 3 elements to this. They firstly need support with their online presence building and capacity building in social media management, making pitch videos, and conducting digital marketing. Secondly, related to the support that exporters need, the trade promotion service providers interviewed reported that while they recognize there's a need from exporters to engage digitally, it is time consuming. Not all TPSPs feel that they have the capacity and or skills to provide the level of digital support that exporters need. And thirdly, some exporters don't have the necessary equipment, that's laptops or webcams required to engage digitally. And in terms of facilitation of trust, we've gone through it before. Trust building online takes longer, but an interesting finding from all of the interviewees, mainly the exporters and buyers, they report that having USAID affiliated with an event or an engagement lends credibility. So what's relevant here for the trade promotion service providers is that a trusted intermediary, in the case of a small exporter meeting a large buyer, for example, a trusted intermediary goes a long way to lend credibility during virtual or online engagement. Third finding was that a polished online presence helps exporters demonstrate the credibility and professionalism that is required by potential buyers. And lastly, they recognize, specifically exporters recognize, that information sharing and increasing transparency can increase trust. So the more information an exporter can provide to buyers beforehand, the better, or the more it helps with building that trust. From the study and from these challenges that we've identified, there were 5 recommendations that were made, which are also recommendations that trade promotion service providers can think of taking up. And the first is a trends analysis around digitalization of trade. Because we recognize that there are divergent sectors, divergent company sizes, divergent export experience, it's important to recognize what sector-specific market trends there are. The USA Trade Hub has embarked on an agriculture trends analysis, which we are about a month and a half away from finalizing. But this just looks at the agriculture sector. There'd be a need for trade promotion service providers to look at what are the digital trends in, for example, textile or apparel or handicraft sector. And this will help exporters adjust their expectations of what level of digital engagement would be required. Secondly, there's a need to have an understanding of the life cycle for virtual business-to-business engagement. Not all deals that start out virtually end successfully or lead to deal closure. So there's a need for a program like the USA Trade Hub and any trade promotion service provider, in fact, to help their members understand what the life cycle of virtual engagement look like. Many TPSPs expressed frustration at the lack of understanding by either the buyer or the exporter of how long it takes for a deal to go from introduction all the way through price negotiation, sending samples, and eventually deal closure. Third recommendation, which is a key one for trade promotion service providers, is for TPSPs to develop the digital capacity and readiness of their member firms. And here the research team suggested that firstly, an assessment is done to determine where firms are in the stages of digitalization. Secondly, to co-create with the firms a comprehensive digital skills curriculum that would be specific to the needs identified within their membership. And then thirdly, to provide that package of support, digital support, and helping their firms upskill. So in addition to having export specific skills, to also have digital skills to be able to engage with potential buyers. The fourth of the 5 findings is that we need to consider opportunities for blended online and in-person engagement. So here some of the examples that came from the interviews were, can we send samples ahead of meetings to buyers? This is particular to virtual meetings. Can we have the potential exporter or the exporter send to the potential buyer the samples of their products before their meeting? Can we host tasting events, for example, through specialty foods? We've seen physical sample rooms, for example, in the fashion industry, in textile and crafts, where there's a central location where people can look at the samples physically and then engage with the potential exporters through follow-up pitches. And the last recommendation is to continue providing trade-related webinars. So because for many of the exporters, travel was a bit of a challenge, it was important for their business sustainability and for their knowledge to be able to attend what would have been seminars, in-person seminars, to be able to attend that virtually. So a lot of the recommendations from the interviewees were to continue providing trade-related webinars. Then just briefly, as part of the study, which we'll also make available publicly, we looked at specific case studies, which you're also more than welcome to consult afterwards when I share the link. And then as I close off, there are two questions I would leave with the forum and with our participants here today. What do you think are the key digital opportunities our firms in Southern Africa can tap into? And what do you think are the digital disadvantages or struggles that our region and firms would need to overcome? Thank you very much, everyone, for your attention. Let me hand back to the MC at this point.
Thank you very much, Chris. As we did before, for those that have questions, please kindly put up your hand and we will be able to connect you to that. Chris, thank you very much for that presentation. Of course, it shows us how well being digital ensures that you can reach out to other markets, especially with the challenging times that COVID-19 brought to us. And for us trade service providers, it can be quite frustrating because sometimes the people, our members we're dealing with, may not be able to really understand what is required to be able to have a digital presence and helping them through. And then when they do realize the cost is like, what have you put me into? So at this point, if we do have any questions, please just kindly put up your hand and we should be able to get you to connect with Chris. If there are no questions at this point, could we please go to the agenda? All right, we do have a question from Siyabonga. Siyabonga, please go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, no, thank you. I'm not sure if I'm audible.
Yes, we can get you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that presentation. My name is Siyabonga Mkhunu. I'm the research coordinator at the Nelson Mandela Bay Business Chamber. So no, I just wanted to ask regarding the support that is recommended for exporters in terms of what kind of support would that be? Because I know, it's kind of broad when you just say, when you just indicate support, but maybe a more specific example of what support would that be for exporters? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question, Siyabonga. Very, very good question. And in the full study, we make specific reference to the kind of support needed. Typically, this would be based on an assessment of the digital skills of the exporters, which is why the recommendation is specific to TPSPs to understand in their membership what kind of digital readiness is there in their membership. Some firms, for example, would be asked to engage in virtual buyer missions, but don't have a webcam or are unable to do virtual company tours. So it's a case-by-case basis, and it would depend on the assessment of the digital readiness of firms. I hope that answers your question, Siyabonga.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Siyabonga. If there are no further questions at this point, we'll ask Linda to come in and just give us a summary of what has been presented so far and what some of those takeaways that we may, as service providers, go with from these two presentations that we've had. So Linda, as was mentioned before, is the Export Relations Coordinator at the Eastern Cape Development Corporation. She is a seasoned professional with more than 10 years of trade and investment promotion experience and is committed to building capacity to support the Eastern Cape trade performance. She works closely with governments, regional, continental, and international organizations, and as was said before, is at the center of putting all of us together today. So at this point, Linda, I'll ask you to come back to the floor. Sorry, you're on mute. Kindly just unmute your mic.
Sorry. Thank you, Florence, for that brief introduction. Thank you so much to both our presenters. Madi and Christopher. Today's session has mainly fulfilled our goal as a forum, which is to exchange knowledge and experience, as well as how trade and investment initiatives, activities, and programs are influencing change in the region. That is our main focus, is to influence change in the region, as well as provide a platform to expand in opportunities, expand our existing partnerships, and also to benchmark and establish new collaborations. Madi's presentation was mainly focusing on giving us information on meat replacement products, and the information provides us with how companies can tap into that industry. And if companies would like to contact her on the site, we will provide her contact details so that they can further engage with her and see where are the opportunities, how can they make sure that what they are producing is in line with the requirements of the US market at the moment, because I know that once you manage to crack the US market, you can be competitive in any other market, because that is the most difficult market to access. There is a question that came up earlier, if they've got any African organizations that are working that they are working with at the moment, and she mentioned that it's a no, and I don't think that that would limit us as African organizations to contact Madi and learn more from her on how they are operating their business member organization. Coming to Chris's presentation, which is very important for us as trade and investment agencies and BSOs, the support that we provide for our companies in terms of making sure that they compete the traditional way as well as digital. Yes, COVID has come up with so many challenges for us, and those that were not able to respond immediately are still left out in the cold. So it is our responsibilities as trade investment service providers to make sure that we are pulling those that are still left behind to be on board. The truth is that the way that we do our work, it requires us now to be both virtual and to go back to in-person events, as the polls have indicated. And unfortunately, not all our exporters are ready for the virtual platforms. And we only realized that in the past 2 years, when we were all forced to make other means to make sure that we continue doing our work and we continue to be efficient and effective in terms of delivering our mandates in our various organizations. And the digital platforms are there for us to tap into as trade and investment organizations, as well as we assist our exporters to tap onto them. As the ECDC, I will touch on what we have done in the past 2 years. We decided immediately that we will develop a training that will focus on e-business capabilities for our exporters, because we realize that on virtual platforms and in-person platforms require different skills. And what Chris has touched on is that they would lack internet connections. That is what they are complaining about. And if we were to have business to business and virtual engagement, we will provide a facility for them to come and a seat so that they cannot have those internet disruptions during the sessions. And also, we have discovered that not all of them commit when we talk of virtual engagement. So we have to structure them in a way that they don't get bored or they don't lose interest. So interactive, the sessions should be interactive, engage with them so that the conversations are ongoing. And we have been fortunate because they were cooperative and they could see where they are lacking, and we work with them to make sure that they work on what is required of them. So the digitalization is still a challenge, and I appreciate that USAID can share this study with us so that we can see how we can improve where we are lacking as trade and investment agencies, also as BMOs, where are we lacking and how can we work together to make sure that the exporters take full advantage of digital platforms, because the reality is that they are not going anywhere. And the reality is that there are advantages and there's also disadvantages. There is a way that our exporters can benefit from them, and there is a way that we can work with them to overcome the challenges that they have. For example, we have pitching programs that we have developed as ECDC, where we give them the skills on how to pitch their products online, because we understand that it is not the same to pitch your product in person and pitch your product online. So we are assisting them with those skills so that they are able to put their story across, introduce their product properly to the person that is on the other side, without them failing to sell themselves as a company and to sell their product. So I would like us, Chris, if you are able to engage further and see how maybe we can all work together to make sure that we make use of the study that you have presented today with the help of the USAID Trade Hub. I think I would leave it at that. And I hope that we are going to continue to have these engagements. This is not going to be the last one. And on those engagements, we will go back and review what we have discussed in the last one so that we make sure that we are not just doing talks, but we are actually implementing the recommendations that we come up with in each and every session that we host. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Linda. And at this point, I will encourage anybody who has any comments to make or any questions to ask from what Linda has said to just quickly put up their hands, and we can be able to address any questions or clarification. But as has been mentioned, this platform is there to help us, all of us in the Southern African region, to increase our exports to each other, to increase investments within our different countries, and to also work hand in hand to help our members be able to connect much quicker to our counterparts. So if we can enhance these chats and these discussions, we definitely will see more interactions between our members and more exports amongst them. So at this juncture, if we do not have any questions, I will ask Mantla. Mantla, are you on the line? Oh, Kos is going to come on. All right. So we'll ask Kos to just give us some quick comments, and then we'll call upon Mantla afterwards.
Madam Moderator, thank you very much, Florence, for taking us this far on this session. So my role is just on behalf of USA Trade Hub, just to share with you a few items. The first one being events such as this session and the others that we have conducted. For example, we load them on our website, the sathub.com website. So if you need to go through what has taken place in the past, please feel free to visit our website and get the videos, presentations from all previous events. Next slide. Yeah, even success stories as well. We take note of what's been happening. We record success stories. It's important that you also visit these read these success stories, learn lessons from there, and where possible, implement. So please feel free. We invite you to also go through these success stories. So the project is here, where most of you are aware, it's been around for, we are in our 6th year. So you can just imagine the amount of knowledge, amount of developments, amount of learnings that has been collated, and which can benefit exporters and partners. So we have got events that are coming up on the 11th. We, in partnership with FFF Associates, we've got a webinar mainly focusing on exporting food ingredients, cosmetics ingredients to the United States. So there will be buyers and speakers from the US to talk, to take us through what does it mean to be exporting to the United States, these particular product categories. Then we also have on the 12th of May, please previous slide. Yeah, on the 12th of May, we've got a buyer mission working with Swift. I'm sure a number of firms have engaged with Swift as well. So it's another buyer mission focusing on the US market. We have got an Engage Trade Africa event led by one of our partners, Catalyze, which will be taking place on May the 18th. And here we'll be talking about insights and opportunities and insights in exporting to South Africa. So here we are focusing on exporters from 8 countries: Angola, Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, and Zambia, on exporting to the United States. On the same day, the 18th of May, we also have a pre-Summer Funds Food Show. It's a pre-trade event session where we'll have the event organizer. That is for those that will be participating at the Summer Funds Food Show. So we'll have the Special Food Association. We'll have the SA Consulate in New York. We'll also have Westgrow, who will be the host. And a shipper. We're talking to DHL on shipping samples to the United States. So we'll have that session just to prepare firms for the Summer Funds Food Show, which will be taking place June 12 to 14 in New York. Next slide. Right. So we just listed a few partners. I'm sure this list will be growing bigger. Some of the partners that are on the call, or those that we have been working with, are listed here. So thank you very much, Madam Chair. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Kos, for taking us through and whetting our appetites to what's more to come. We're definitely looking forward to that. As Kos did mention, Westgrow will be hosting the next session of our TISP forum, Trade Investment Service Providers Forum. And this will be in the week of Africa Freedom Day, between between 23rd, is it 23rd? Yes, between 23rd and 28th, Westgrow will be hosting a week, Africa Week, and on the 24th, we are going to have the next TISP forum, and this will be held both virtually and physically, as we saw from Chris' presentation. there are some that still prefer meeting in person. So our next forum will be hosted by WESCRO, and we look forward to participation from our members from this platform, and this will be in South Africa. So thank you very much, Koos. And our next speaker who will be giving us the closing remarks is Mantla Sakolova, and she is the CEO of the Botswana Exporters and Manufacturers Association. She works there as a director with a focus on investment industry stakeholder relations and gives strategic direction to the board. In addition to being board chair at the University of Botswana Marketing Department, Mantla serves as a member of the Export Development Apex team under the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. She is a private sector representative in the SACU Technical Committee for Senior Officials on Industrialization, Export and Investment Promotion. She also serves a lucrative role both at national and regional level committees on trade, where she is revered by peers and valued by clients for her eccentric, pragmatic advisory role in the corporate space, particularly in leadership and strategy areas. Thank you very much, Mantla, for joining us. Kindly give us your closing remarks.
Thank you very, very much, Linda. Thank you for this opportunity, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think mine is a very short one to do. I'm quite honored to be here this afternoon, and I hope that all of us have been intrigued by this static session that we've just had. Once again, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Mantla Sakolova. I am the CEO of Botswana Exporters and Manufacturers Association. Of course, it's a private sector business membership organization based in Botswana. I also serve as the president of OECPS Business Forum, which of course is it comprises of 6 different regions with 79 member states. At this moment, I would like to delve into giving the closing remarks to this wonderful session that we've just had. But first and foremost, allow me to express my heartfelt appreciation for the wonderful and insightful presentations that were made here by the various presenters, particularly I want to thank you, Maddie, for allowing and opening, conversations on what your organization does, and also creating an open door for us to engage with yourself so that we can see how we can collaborate with you, and also allow our companies in countries that we represent to also see how they can benefit from the great services that you offer. It is exciting, of course, birth of conversations centric to entities that render services to trade-oriented businesses that are geared towards economic transformation of the region. And again, on the presentation that was made by Christopher, where he touched on digitalization, I think most of the issues or the facts that you laid down were speaking a lot to the realities that we have, especially across the SMME sector, where really digitalization would be an ideal phenomenon, or even not so famous or popular within their landscape, considering that they would be faced with many other challenges, such as access to internet that is stable, of course, again, to access of funding to allow them to be able to be utilizing and enjoying the digital platforms, of course, that would allow them to have access to markets such as the American market, which again, the USA Trade Hub has come handsomely, especially during the pandemic, the COVID-19, when it started during the lockdowns. I think USA Trade Hub was the most popular organization then, especially across the Southern Africa, where we were spoiled with a lot of platforms, which were very useful to giving life to the realization and the reality of the fact that digitalization indeed could be a tool that can help our companies export and even interact, not only export or sell their products across the markets in the export space, but also to interact with other potential partners across the globe. So thank you very much USA Trade Hub for all the work that you continue to do to allow us to meet with our counterparts across Africa. It has been a wonderful journey that we do appreciate, and I want to believe, as Linda was saying, even as Kos was saying, this is just the beginning of a lot of work that needs to be done in order for the companies to realize and utilize the digital platforms that are available within and across the social media platforms as well. And again, it may look easy when it's already done, especially when you start making that video, but it would take a lot of technical, know-how. And again, it goes back to the issue of money. Do we have money as SMEs for them to be able to use that? Not only money, even the skill. It touches the issues of skills. Are they skilled enough to even utilize such? And I want to believe that as the USAID started in this conversation, it means that there would be other mitigating factors that would be brought forth for companies to be able to do that. So we look forward to that. And again, let me thank the audience, the participants online who have been so handsomely participating. This has been a very great interaction. So thank you very much. We look forward to more from yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Very much.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Mantla.
Thank you.